Friends, welcome back to the Brave New Wear Show. My name's Christian. In a recent video, I was exploring the ideas of luxury fashion, high fashion, and essentially I was curious about how we actually define these definitions, how we define what high fashion is. And one of the things that came up in that video was this idea or question of, can you make high fashion without being a massive brand? And by that I mean, can you develop, design, produce really nice garments that we would consider like high fashion, the height, I guess, of the medium?
This is the height of luxury!
Without being a huge brand like Gucci or Prada that has massive resources, that has massive marketing campaigns, and ultimately sells the products for a big number on the number sheet. Potentially, I am showing an alternative to that today. Today, I'm looking at a few pieces from brands that have the high fashion design without being the product of massive conglomerates. I found all of these brands through social media, and the unifying factor that kind of unites them all is that they are all not mainstream.
There I am, Gary, there I am!
And for all of the brands and the pieces that I'm showing today, there'll be links down below. All of these people were extremely gracious in sharing these pieces with me so that I could show them to you guys. So please, I beg you, show them some love. Check out the links down below. Maybe pick something up? I don't know. Alright, the first brand and piece of my lineup is Intrem with the Geist jacket. This whole video idea admittedly started when the founder, creative director, designer behind Intrem, Dylan, reached out to me. Hold on, let me pull it up. So when Dylan first reached out, he described the brand Intrem as made-to-order brand that focuses on future-forward designs with technical components and a brutalist tonality. Everything is done by Dylan. The Geist jacket I'm gonna show you guys was made by hand by him. Some of my favorite details about the Geist jacket, it's made from like a dark or black twill / denim. It's a workwear type jacket with a Riri zipper closure, super boxy fit, about 23 inches across the chest, 23 inches length. It has these really wide sleeves that fit really cool, and it's got distressing details at the ends of the sleeves, and then you'll see the asymmetrical distressing details on the shoulder and near the waist. I think that's one of the cool components of the jacket, is that kind of asymmetrical distressing. The entire thing feels super high quality. It feels like a luxury garment, and the material itself is super durable, so I could see this lasting a real long time. If you're a curious person like me, you're probably asking yourself, what's going on in Dylan's head? What's behind this brand? What do I do? So I asked him some questions, and they were as follows. If you look at the product page for the Geist jacket, there are lists of inspirations behind the design that are as abstract as 19th century labor movements and the philosophy of Hegel. I asked Dylan how those things are represented in the product or in the jacket itself. How does that inspiration come across? The inspiration for the jacket serves as an almost abstract context for referencing the name of the piece, the textiles used, and the overall design. The main idea was to create a future-forward piece using classic workwear textile. I wanted to rethink what a classic denim jacket could be that could serve the main design ethos in being futuristic cyberpunk in a meaningful way. The name Geist works amazingly in both capacities to describe the piece, as the name strongly references both Hegel's writing as well as the introspective ideas of the ghost or spirit in cyberpunk fiction. Another question I asked Dylan was basically, how does he set his brand apart? What distinguishes it from other brands citing the same inspirations? I know there are a lot of brands in a somewhat similar space as mine. I think what sets Etrium apart is not only the hyper-specific design language and general use of certain textiles, but the fact that in less than 2 years, I personally was able to create this brand from nothing and do every single facet on my own. Sketching, making patterns, sourcing fabric, sourcing hardware, etc., etc., etc. There's not a single part of what goes behind the brand that I don't do myself. Overall, while it isn't a cheap item, it's handmade and it's in a cut that I think is really cool. And frankly, I think it's worth it. If you find this jacket interesting, check out the link below and support Dylan. Next on the list is Archivos. And if you're new to my channel and you haven't seen my past videos, I reviewed the Archivos hoodie and sweatpants in a hoodie roundup that I did a few years ago. And I just want to begin by saying, I still love those pieces. They are some of my favorite streetwear leisure items. I wear the hoodie like on a regular basis. I wear the sweatpants maybe even more. They make for a perfect going to the airport sweatsuit kind of look. I just wanted to reiterate here that I've loved the Archivos pieces, and like I wear them constantly. I wash them all the time, and they still remain delightful. But for today's video, I'm specifically looking at this boot that Archivos sent me. This one, hello. It's called the Reverse Cuero Bota, reverse leather boot. And it is what you might expect, a typical kind of leather Chelsea boot sort of deal. But, I mean, the first part of it is this super tall heel. This is possibly the tallest heel of any boot that I have right now. Black suede upper, this stacked leather outsole, the jumbo heel with like, it looks like rubber here, and like a typical kind of leather bottom outsole. I really like these boots. They are, for the price, superb. This is the kind of boot that you could theoretically continue to get resold, to continue to bring to the cobbler. I'm partial to kind of the platform element of it. The fact that like this stacked sole is so big, the heel, this makes me seem almost tall, which is crazy. And I modeled this with my Archivos sweatsuit on, just so you can get the fullest like aesthetic, the full look. Maybe you wouldn't necessarily wear sweatpants, hoodie, and boots together, and maybe you should start thinking of doing that. To answer this question and more, I followed up with Jesus, the founder designer behind Archivos. Him and I have messaged back and forth for years, and I wanted to ask him some more specific questions about the designs. I started with asking about the Cuero boots and how they fit into the rest of the aesthetic and the other pieces that he's created for Archivos. I believe the Cuero boots is me honing my design language, more so showing the maturity of the brand and showing that I can create other garments besides hoodies and tees. While Jesus has never admitted to as much, I was curious if there was some deliberate Latino inspiration behind the aesthetic of the brand. There's a lot of Mexican influence. In the Mexican culture, typically everyone has some kind of boot, whether to go to some rodeo or for daily use. My dad typically wore boots growing up. I wore them as a kid, and I started to wear them again later in life. The boots are handmade in Leon, Mexico. Every heritage boot brand makes their boots in Leon, from Lucchese to Dan Post. So I thought it would only be right for me to go down there and find a bootmaker to show him my vision and choose the leathers. I wanted to create my own iteration of an avant-garde boot, using the inside of cowhide as the face for its natural wear and patina, the stitch down the center which I've incorporated into various pieces and I haven't seen on a boot, which adds more to the construction since it adds to the cutting of the pattern. But either way, huge plus. These are superb. I think they're worth it. You can check out the link below if you want to pick some up. All right, last on my list is the brand Bobby Cabbage Stalk. And I didn't know about the brand prior to the video. A friend recommended that I check them out on Instagram, sent them a DM, but looking at their account, my initial thought was this brand would be the odd one out because the focus has been on basically individuals creating clothes, creating brands without permission, without the credentials that we typically expect from high fashion. But I was pleasantly surprised. Bobby not only got back to me on Instagram, but his brand and his kind of story is actually very closely aligned with these other creators in that he is an individual creating beautiful pieces, not following necessarily the run-of-the-mill typical way of creating a brand. And The thing about these garments is that they are blowing me away. They would be perfectly at home at Dover Street Market, both in terms of the uniqueness of the design and the very high quality. I mean, honestly, when I got the box of the garments and opened them up, I felt like I don't deserve this. I don't deserve for somebody to send me these nice pieces to look at. And so because I was so interested, I sent Bobby a list of questions to kind of get some insight into the brand, and I will go over some of those and show you some of the cool pieces that he sent me. It includes a padded ballistic nylon vest, this magnetic closure brown overcoat, a black nylon pullover type piece, graphic t-shirt, and another pullover in kind of like a reverse fleece. First, I asked Bobby whether or not he would consider the brand fledgling, in the same way that most of the brands I've shown today are. He said he would definitely consider himself up and coming, especially in comparison to some of the newer designers he looks up to that are really starting to hit their mark in places and spaces that he says he would like to be in the near future. Right now, I'd say I'm just getting started and learning how to learn. Easily one of my favorite pieces that Bobby sent was this padded nylon ballistic vest. Naturally, my first thought is thinking of the Helmut Lang ballistic vest that has become a uber grail for so many people.
Probably this season's most newsworthy event was Helmut Lang's first New York menswear show. Regarded as one of today's most influential designers, Helmut Lang was a celebrated addition to the New York calendar.
But I would definitely say that Bobby brings something new and strange to this idea. I love the Velcro detailing, this huge piece that comes across the my like belly button right there. I like how the Velcro underneath it is these like oval pattern. I like the oval cutout in the back. And as I'm showing in the beginning, I think you could wear this kind of open, kind of like some sort of cape. And that's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite pieces. It's a thing that there is not really an analog or a something to compare it to in my wardrobe. It's kind of completely unique. I asked Bobby if he had any advice for anybody who's watching these videos and saw these brands and thought maybe they could take a swing at creating fashion. Richard Serra and Carrie James Marshall have been major inspirations for my work lately. Their goal, they both explain, is to focus on the how, not the what. You're committing yourself to research, self-exploration, and development of meaningful work that will guide you towards a what or a final desirable result. Secondly, he says, when you're starting out, your output never matches your taste level or what you'd consider great work from others who inspire you. This is normal and expected. The key is to keep going, and eventually your work will match your vision, and it's the best feeling in the world.
One of the senses you get from the work that we call Old Master works is that the work was based on their knowledge of some things. There were either ideas or principles, there were things about the way we see, and they used that knowledge to construct these pictures that functioned in very particular and very specific ways. So for a young person who was interested in drawing and making images myself, looking at what I was doing and comparing it to what I saw in the books or what I saw in the museum, the discrepancy between what I could do and what those pictures seemed to represent was vast. And I felt the only way I could really do that was to know what they knew.
Piece number 2 I want to highlight is this brown twill overcoat. You can see it has pockets on the side. It's got this interesting bell-shaped silhouette where it becomes a lot wider near the bottom of the jacket. But the most compelling element is definitely the magnetic closure. You can see me in the video, it works so well. It's the kind of thing that you wonder why more people don't try this, but it definitely shows Bobby's sci-fi inspiration here. One of the things I find really interesting about Bobby's story is the fact that he didn't study fashion design, which I think is really compelling and inspiring, as anybody who wants to create clothes can actually go and do it. Through his friends and connections, he had an incredible opportunity to work for Yeezy Season 8. My question for Bobby was, how did this experience shape him? How did this experience inform or help develop his sensibilities as a fashion designer? This was a pivotal experience for me because I have no formal training in fashion or design, period. So when I was lucky enough to come on board, I was blown away. Most importantly, it helped me know what I don't know, so I was able to attack my weaknesses, which were mainly technical and academic. But it also taught me what my strengths were, which were research, vision, and storytelling, which are extremely important. There's a million pants out there. Why should somebody try yours? How do they function? What's the silhouette? How are they constructed? These all tell the story of your work, which will set it apart. Last on my list to highlight is this bizarre black nylon pull-over top that Bobby sent me. Notable details include this really interesting Velcro action at the waist. There is ribbing detail at the neck and on the sleeves, and there are pockets right near the Velcro at the sides. This piece is super unique. I could see how sci-fi obviously inspires it or informs it. It's one of those garments where I put it on and I'm actually not 100% sure how you would style it, but I think that that's a plus for this piece. It's nothing that is typical. One of the last questions and answers I want to share with you was regarding the question I began the video with, whether or not we can create high fashion without being a massive brand. Big brands regularly look to smaller, lesser-known brands for inspiration because they're the ones innovating and taking risks. So even though I would say it's certainly easier to create exquisite couture pieces at scale when you have the big backing of a big house or financial backing, I think it's more important now to create special moments with what you have because it carries a different spirit. Hydra Ackerman's couture show for Gautier was an unbelievable high fashion moment that could not have been done without those resources, but I've also seen Glenn Martens send high fashion looks down the runway that are the result of skillfully manipulating denim, which speaks to his skill as a designer. If you dropped him off in the fashion district with owning a sewing machine and a roll of cheap denim and asked him to make you something beautiful, he would blow you away. High fashion to me is just skill displayed at scale. If you don't develop the skill, you won't gain the moment. All right, that's the end of the video. This one took me forever to make, but really I'm asking everybody to show some love to all the designers who are included in this video. They were super patient with me, and I just want this video to do well for them. So check out the links down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. There's so much that I couldn't include that, you know, kind of had to cut. But otherwise, this was a lot of fun. And I hope you all enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next one.